Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, and welcome to the first Lunch and Learn of the year. My name is Jennifer Tresp, and I am your Training and Unified Sports Director. And today I will be talking about meaningful involvement, what it is, and pretty much how you can help make it happen. So for today's call, I do ask that you put yourself on mute. If you have questions, you can throw them in the mute. I'm sorry, in the chat box. You'll be on mute. Throw the questions in the chat box. And then will open it up at the end if you do have any questions or anything that we need to talk about from the presentation. So our agenda will be the welcome, which welcome everyone. We'll talk about the definition of meaningful involvement. Then we'll take a closer look at meaningful involvement, followed by the coach's role. How you know if you have been successful and how you know if you have not been successful. We'll bring it all together and then we'll take some questions. So please note that for today's presentation, the word athlete will be referring to Special Olympics athletes or unified partners. So you're not going to see teammate or partner or athlete. You're just going to see athlete. Okay. And we are referring to everyone who is participating in the program with the term athlete. Okay. So meaningful involvement. Meaningful involvement actually started as one of the most important criteria in a document that was called 7 Criteria for the Success of a Special Olympics Unified Sports Program. Okay, so this started out in unified sports, but today it's not just unified sports. It includes traditional Special Olympics sports, and that will be teams, individuals, unified sports. It includes it all. Okay. Sorry if I pause slightly for a second, I'm letting somebody into the session. Okay, so the definition of meaningful participation. The principle of meaningful involvement ensures that every athlete is given an opportunity to contribute to the success of their team through their unique skills and qualities. Okay, this goes from your highest participants to your lowest participants. Okay. So what does it mean? It means that every athlete should be able to demonstrate sufficient sport-specific skills and game understanding. Okay, do they know the game? Okay, do they know what they're doing? Okay, they play a valued role on the team or as an individual athlete that emphasizes their personal talent. And every athlete has an opportunity to play without a heightened risk of injury. Okay, keeping everything safe. So we're going to take a closer look at each one of those. Okay, so the first one was about demonstrating the sports specific skills and game understanding. What that's all about is knowing your basic skills. Okay, the basic skills should be taught to everyone alike, even returning athletes and or partners. Okay, I know that sometimes you have a team, they've been with you for a couple of years, they come back, you drop right into playing the game. Okay, is that the appropriate thing to do? No. You need to take the time to go back over the skills and ensure that they know how to do them. Okay, this includes things like in alpine skiing, the skill of getting on a ski lift. Okay, sometimes you may not get on a ski lift at some of your practices. Then you come to sectional or state games and now you're getting on a ski lift. Okay, so please make sure that you're getting those basic skills. Okay, we just started a floor hockey.
My goodness.
And we told them, they all just wanted to play a game. And I looked at them and I said, did you run before you could walk? And they said no. I said, so think of walking as your individual skills. You've got to learn the skills before you can run and play the game. Okay, so keep that in mind. I know people hate the skills because they want to play, but skills are a very important part of any sport training. Okay, The rules of the sport, they're not just for coaches. Athletes should be taught and understand the rules. Okay. I love when I hear an athlete say, well, we're doing this because da 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 da. Or, I got an honest effort disqualification because I did blah, blah, blah. The athletes need to know the rules. Why are they doing this? Okay. So that's the third point there. Why are they doing this? Why can't they just run through that person on the soccer field and kick it into the goal? Why in floor hockey do they have to stay out of the crease? Okay. Why in bocce can't they step over this line? Okay. So give them the whys, give them the rules, make them have an informative decision on what they're doing, and then provide them scenarios. Provide the scenarios for the athletes so they can determine what is best to do in that situation. What happens if they fall off the balance beam? What do? Do they get back on? Do they walk off the field or off the platform? Sorry. In powerlifting, if they don't make the lift, what do? Okay. So no matter what sport they're participating in, work some scenarios with them. They're easy to create and they're fun to see if the athlete can come up with what to do in it. Okay. And that helps prepare them to demonstrate their sport specific skills and their understanding of the game. They have to play a value role that emphasizes their personal talents. Okay. So along this line, we're talking about the athlete's ability level. Okay. All ability levels should be assessed. Okay. Each athlete, whether they are a new athlete, an older athlete, a partner, a skills, they should be assessed, and why are they going to be assessed? So they can be on the appropriate teams. Okay, so you might have a 12-year-old playing hockey, and the 12-year-old needs to be assessed to see if they can play with the 17-year-olds. They need to be assessed to see if they can play on the defense, the offense, or how about maybe they need to be in individual skills. Okay? In tennis, there are different levels. Assess them to make sure they're in the appropriate level. Do not bump them up just so they can play on a team because they want to be on the team. Okay. Is it safe? Is it the right thing for them? Okay. So keep this in mind. Always be assessing your athletes. Sometimes you have to reassess between the beginning of the season, the middle of the season, and the end of the season. Okay. But always be assessing and making sure that they know what to do. And then last but not least, everybody plays policy. This one aims more towards the teams. And if you're a teams coach, I hope you've seen this document before. What this says is everybody plays. Okay. It is from our general rules. Okay. It's Article 1. And it tells you that if you are a team, and let's say it's volleyball, soccer, softball, everybody who comes to practice and comes to an event has the right to participate. Okay. You just can't say, well, we're not going to put him in today for volleyball because he's not the best of our athletes. He's just going to come along and sit on the bench. Nobody sits on the bench. Everybody you have rostered has to come in and they have to play. Okay. I'm not telling you how long they have to play, but I'm telling you they have to play. Okay. They have the right to play if they train. And by the way, if you have athletes who are in skills, bring them to state events, bring them to sectional events. If you're going to practice and show up for your 8 weeks of training or 10 weeks of training, or preferably 12 weeks of training, those athletes have the right to participate at a competition. Bring them along. I know it's an extra certified coach, but it's for the athletes. Okay, so the opportunity to play without the risk of injury. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about this. We're talking about appropriate team member selection. Who you're putting on the team. Are they appropriate to be on that team? Okay. Again, you'll do those skills assessments. Okay. We'll look at their skill level and their age grouping. We'll talk a little bit about ability-based divisioning. And of course, practice makes perfect. We need to make sure that our athletes are in attendance at a minimum of 8 weeks of training. If you only train for 8 weeks, if an athlete misses a training or two, they're not eligible for state games. With the new training trackers, attendance trackers, we're going to know who's not eligible for state events. So my recommendation to you is set up 10 weeks of training, preferably 12 in my eyes, but at least set up 10 weeks. This way, if an athlete is sick or something comes up and they cannot make your training, now you will be able to get those 8 weeks of training in. And remember, when we say 8 weeks of training, we're only referring to the whole week. So that's Saturday through Sunday, okay, or Sunday through Saturday, however you want to look at it. You can have 2 practices that week, but it still is only considered 1 week. So before you move on to state games, you must have those 8 weeks of training. Okay. A safe training facility. Make sure that you are checking your facility before you practice. You never know what happened in that facility before you got there. Make sure it is safe. Make sure that there is not, if you're out on the field, okay, make sure there are not divots in the field or sticks or broken bottles, okay, on the field. It needs to be safe. So one of the things you're responsible for is to ensure that the facility is safe, whether you're inside or you are outside. And the athletes deserve certified coaches, right? All their coaches should be certified. We've had coaches who've been training athletes and working with athletes for 5 or 6 years who've just now decided on getting certified. Okay, let's get them certified. Okay, when they come to a training school, they're learning about how to assess the athletes, how to do those basic skills. So the athletes deserve a coach who's had that training. So looking a little deeper, we're talking about the team safety. Team age groups. Yes, our teams have age groups. So if you're coaching a team and you have athletes who are 15 and under, they are in one age group. If you have athletes 16 to 21, they are in another age group, and then 22 and over is an age group. So you'll see there are 3 age groups. Okay. If you have members who are 18 or 19 and they're on a team with athletes who are, let's say, 32 and 34, it's actually considered inappropriate. It's not safe for them. Okay. It is not safe for them. So you will need to make sure that you have the appropriate place for your athletes to be. Some of your older athletes, they're going to be slowing down. The team they were on before may not be appropriate for them anymore. You might have to drop down to skills. Okay. You might have to look maybe for a unified team or a player development team. Okay. But keep this in mind. Starting this fall, age groups are going to be coming into play. Okay. So when you go to a competition, you'll actually be playing against teams in your age group. So you are not having your 16-year-olds going against teams that are all made up of 30 and 40-year-olds. Okay. So keep that in mind. You will be hearing more about it. Okay. And then along with that age group, you're going to need to make sure that those skills are appropriate. Okay. So if you take your teams and you split them into the age groups, you need to also look at their skills. Make sure they're not going to get injured or hurt by participating with that team. Okay? Where it's really important is games like soccer, floor hockey. A lot of times in floor hockey, a team will put their slower athletes in for defense because it's a great place for them to be. Okay. It's an easy place for them to be, kind of keeps them out of the hustle and bustle of the front lines, but it's actually just as dangerous because now they're in front of the goal cage. Okay. So if they can't protect themselves and play the game, it's not safe. Okay. Now you need to consider moving them to a lower team or putting them in individual skills. So again, look at these age groups and make sure that you are ensuring your teams are in the appropriate age group and their ability is appropriate for those who they are playing. A lot of people say to me, well, I'm not going to have enough people to be in this age group. Recruit, recruit, recruit. That's what your region's for. Okay. You might have to go out and start recruiting. Talk to the counties next to you. Hey, are you having this problem? Can we work together? Okay. It's okay to do that. So the age group of your team, how do you determine what age group it is? It's actually done by the oldest athlete on your team on the opening day of competition. Okay. In individual sports, we have age groups again. These are the ages 8 to 11, 12 to 15, 16 to 21, 22 to 23, and then ages 30 and over. And now you may create additional groups if there is a lot of 30 and over athletes. You might be looking at maybe 30 to 40 and then 41 through 50, depending on your group. So you are able to make additional age groups. So, but you need to make sure you have a minimum of 3 athletes or 3 teams in a division and a maximum of 8. Okay. Now you'll see when we do teams, we're not going to put 8 teams in a division. We will never get done at the competition. So you'll see probably 3, 4, or 5 team divisions. Okay. But in individual sports such as bowling, you will see up to 8 athletes on a set of lanes in a division. Okay. In gymnastics, you'll see up to 8 in a division, minimum of 3, maximum of 8, and you can bump an athlete up 1 age group if necessary. Okay, so if they're 11, you can bump them up to the 12 to 15. You cannot ever put an 8 to 11-year-old in with 16 to 21. Okay, you can only go up that 1 age group. Keep that in mind. And if you look at a 12-year-old, you need to make sure they're appropriate to move up to a 16-year-old. Okay, so please, if you are bumping an age group, make sure that the athlete is appropriate for bumping the age group. Okay, and this is where they talk a little more about combining the age groups. So within teams, within each ability group, an age group may be competing against a team of a different age group. So you might have a team of the 15 through 21 who are playing maybe a 22 through 30-year-old team. Okay, it will be just 1 age group up. Again, no more than 1. You may not jump 2 age groups. It is strictly 1. So if there's only 1 team in an age or an ability group, they've got to compete against somebody. So again, they will compete against somebody who is maybe of a different age, but the same ability. Okay. And this is what prelims determine. Those prelim game matches are the ones that determine the ability of the team, and that's how they are placed into the ability groupings. Okay. When your team comes into an event and plays a prelim or prelim, they need to play to the best of their ability in the position that they will play during competition. You are not doing the athletes any good by mixing up positions or not having them play to the best of their ability. Okay. Please remember that, keep it in mind. If we do find sandbagging, your team will be moved to a different division or will be awarded lower or could receive participation ribbons. Don't do it to your team. Always encourage them to play every match, every prelim, every game to the best of their ability. Individual sports, it's the same thing. If there are less than 3 competitors within an age group, the athletes shall compete in the next oldest age group. Age groups may be combined to reduce the variance between the highest and the lowest scores within a division. Remember, when we do division individual sports such as athletics, aquatics, those type of sports, we are trying to stay within 10 to 15%. And by 10 to 15%, we mean from the highest athlete to the lowest athlete, there'll be no more score variance of 10 to 15%. Okay. Before we move on to the coach's role in meaningful participation, I would just like to remind you that we are a organization that does ability-based divisioning. So when we are doing individual sports, we will separate first by male and female, and then we will separate by age. Please note that males and females may be combined unless it is powerlifting or the event is specifically named for male or female, such as in shot put and mini jab, where they have different weighted equipment. Okay, so first we will separate by male and female, then we will separate each grouping by their ability level or their entry score. And from there, we will start doing divisions. If we have enough in a division to have an all male division, it will be all male. If we don't, you may see some females in it. If the females don't have a division that we can get a full division from. But males and females may be in the same division, and you will see the same age group competing against each other. And sometimes we might have to bump the athlete up if we do not have somebody from their age group. Okay. And there are those outliers where maybe the athlete is 8 years old and there is no place to bump them because their ability level might be very high or their ability level might be very low. But we prefer to have divisions of 3 up to 8. Okay. The coach's role. How do you fit into meaningful participation? Okay. Take a look at these pictures and you can spot the coach in all of them. You'll see that the coach is really important. Okay. You are the support of the players. You are the teacher of the players. You are the educator of the players. You are the coach. Okay. The athletes love you and they respect you and they listen to you. So you want to make sure that you are always appropriate and encouraging meaningful participation. Okay. So for the coach yourself, okay, this is all about you. You have to be considering that safety is the #1 priority. Okay. That winning comes second. And I know we have some coaches that winning comes first, but safety is #1. And safety will always be our priority. Complete the skills training and do your continuing education. I applaud you for being here today. Continuing education credit will be given. Okay. Make sure that if you are a head coach, that your assistant coaches are talked to about getting certified. Okay. You've got yourself certified. Make sure your assistants are certified and that you are doing your continuing education. It's very simple. It's one session every 3 years. Okay. These sessions last anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour. They're through the National Federation of High Schools. They're lunch and learns. Okay, so please make sure that you are keeping yourself up to date. Always attend the preseason coaches meetings. There's a lot of information that will be provided there, especially when we have new rules and updates. If you're a basketball coach, wait till you see the new rules and updates for tonight during tonight's call. Okay, so please make sure you can attend those preseason coaches meetings. If you cannot, they are recorded and they are on the SOPA website under the Lunch and Learns. I'm sorry, the SOPA website's under the sports offered. Okay, know your athletes. Okay, know your athletes. Review their medical. There is a sheet that you can be given that tells you about their medical issues. Okay, talk to your athletes. Athletes love to talk. They'll give you plenty of information about their medical situations, how they're feeling that day, and what they can do. I have an athlete in floor hockey who every time he comes in, he says, "Oh, my hip hurts. I'm only going to practice for 45 minutes." And I say, "No, you're not. You're going to practice for an hour and a half because you're in therapy right now, and your therapist wants you to be practicing." And you know what? He practices for an hour and a half. Okay, so know your athletes, know how far that you can push them, know when to stop, okay, and know about them. Okay, so the rest of your job is to ensure that the athletes have mastered their basic skills prior to moving up a level. Okay, so if you are in tennis and you have an athlete who just learned to serve, okay, but can't return a ball, that athlete might have to stay in skills. They might have to be in skills, okay, or the lowest level of playing where they can move up to a modified line. Okay, what is the appropriate level for them? Just like in volleyball, again, if the athlete can't serve from the back line and has to serve from the modified serve line, and your team is a high division team, they may not be appropriate to be on that high division team. You might have to choose a lower level team for them, or you might have to go to skills. But make sure they're going to be successful in what they do. Okay, maybe they're not the best artistic gymnast. Maybe they can't get themselves over that low bar or jump off of a springboard. Right? Maybe rhythmic gymnastics is where they belong. Okay, everybody loves rhythmic. You get to dance, and that's the best part of it. Okay, so make sure that where you're putting your athlete, it's appropriate for them. Okay, and you need to help them choose that level. Okay, it isn't the parents' call. Okay, the parents can't say to you, they have to be on this basketball team because this is what I want them to do. Remember, safety first, winning second. Okay? Promote teamwork and good sportsmanship. Okay? When you're at an event, everybody should be watching and listening and applauding and cheering for their teammates, even the team they're playing. Support one another. And by the way, it's kindness week. Don't think twice, just be nice. Okay? Make sure they're paying attention. Correct the inappropriate behavior. Remind the athletes what is appropriate. Okay? Take the time to educate the team members about their sport. We had mentioned this earlier. It's really important that the athletes know the rules and what they're doing with their sport. And make sure you maintain open communication with the athlete's family or caregivers. Okay? If they're missing practice because they did not know the schedule or practice was canceled, okay, it affects the athlete. Okay, so maintain that open communication. We want everyone to have those 8 weeks of training in so that they can attend a state event. How do you know if success is achieved? Okay. Here's how you know. Your athletes are comfortable performing the required skills for the sport. They're successful with the skill. If their skill needs to be a forward roll and they're doing a forward roll and they're not flopping to the side, they're successful because they've made that skill happen. In volleyball, if you're trying to get them to have 3 hits over the net and the team makes those 3 hits before they go over the net, that is success. That's meaningful participation because those 3 athletes work together. Okay, or that gymnast listened and worked hard and got her butt over her head and not off to the side. They know the rules of the game. I love to hear athletes say, oh, that athlete should have done this. Or they should have banked the ball in bocce. They should have spocked to the ball. It's great when you hear them using the sport terminology and that they know what they're doing. In unified champion schools, and I go to bocce matches, I love when one athlete tells another, shh, the athlete's in the box. The rule is you can't talk to them. It tells me that the coach is working with those athletes and partners and everyone involved so that they understand what they're doing and how to do it. All right. They need to compete without causing undue risk or injury to themselves or others. Okay. I had a volleyball player once. He would serve. He had no control over where he was serving. Okay. It was hitting the other athletes in the face. Sometimes it would end up in another lane, another court. Okay. So make sure that everybody can participate without causing risk of injury to themselves or others. If they're playing and the volleyball is always going over to the net appropriately in the in area, success. They have the ability and the opportunity to contribute to the success of the team. Remember that floor hockey player I told you about who stood in front of the goal? Was that successful for that athlete? No, it wasn't. They did not get to participate because they didn't know how to participate. Okay, that is not successful. If you have a bowling team and we see 3 of the athletes sitting on a bench sleeping, is that meaningful participation for that team? No. It's not meaningful for that athlete who's awake and excited about playing when the other 3 are sleeping. Okay, so that is success. Those are ways to say my team was successful and this is how I know why. Okay, your athletes are participating to the best of their ability. Okay, they're performing every skill properly. Okay, to the best of their ability. That's success. You're having great social interaction on your team members. They're helping each other out. They're cheering for each other. They're having that positive experience. Okay, success. Support one another during the competition. And the biggest one of all is their respect is shown for officials, referees, and judges. Okay, success. All of that combined is success for meaningful involvement, and it brings that the athlete and the coaches are both doing their job. Success is not achieved when one athlete is dominating the game and everybody's relying on that athlete. Okay, in softball they call it cherry picking. Okay, they're interrupting the flow of another athlete for performing their best because that person is now pushing them out of the way and taking the glory of the game. Okay, so dominating the game, not successful. Not showing up for training, right? Not coming to practices, only wanting to be there when there's competition. Okay, they're attempting skills that are too high of a level for them. Okay, that is not meaningful participation. Scoring a 3 on the balance beam because you are doing skills that are not your level is not successful. The athlete's not successful and it is not meaningful participation. Here's my favorite one is they changed the way they perform a skill because they saw somebody do it differently. So for example, in mini jabs, the first basic skill of a mini jab is to throw it from a standing position. Okay, and that's where everyone starts. Then you can take a step into it and then you can move to 3 to 5 steps and then you might move to more. But if you're working with an athlete who's standing and throwing and doing really well, then they come to an event and for some reason now they want to take steps. Okay, that's not meaningful participation. Okay, it's not appropriate because they're not doing what they learned by the skill. Maybe in a couple weeks they might be taking those steps and throwing it, but when they're competing they need to do what they were learned. Maybe they're not showing sportsmanship. They're booing other athletes. They're throwing their ribbons. They're throwing their medals. They are angry at a judge. If I hear one more time the official fouled me, the official didn't call that foul, or that I got hurt, that person tripped me, that's not showing sportsmanship. Sportsmanship is respecting the calls of the officials, because the officials officiate, the coaches coach, and the players play. So let's bring this all together. So meaningful involvement is what keeps the athletes returning for that one more practice, that one more game, and that one more season. When they feel like they were successful in the season and that coach helped them to be successful, they're coming back, and that's meaningful involvement. Okay. How many times have you heard that coach didn't pay any attention to me, or that coach just criticized me all the time? I'm not going back until that coach is gone. Okay. So it's really important that the coach understands meaningful involvement. The athlete has meaningful involvement, because as a coach, you play an important role in this process. Always provide a safe environment, teach the sport rules and skills, and provide the opportunity for all of our athletes to be successful. And I have to tell you, that young lady in the center of that team, looking straight at you with her hand on the other athlete's back, has found meaningful participation. And so have the other two. But look at that smile on the face. Okay. So that is my presentation today on meaningful participation. If you are watching this Lunch and Learn and did not attend the day we scheduled it, you're watching it for continuing ed, there's a word you need to know, and that word is success. Okay. For all of you on today's presentation, you don't need to know the word success for the quiz, but you need to know what success is. I'm going to jump into the chat box. Okay. Oh, Beatrice, that's Beatrice's daughter in that picture. Look how happy she is. Okay. So age grouping will apply to relays and swimming. Okay. In the spring sports webinar, they actually gave you the individual age grouping, not the team age grouping. I'm sorry, Cindy, I didn't catch that before they did the presentation. I did change it in all of the preseason webinars.
Thanks, Jen.
Yeah, so I did make, so if you go on any of those, you will see the change in them. And also age, it's so divisioning. So Angie's asking, she's saying, so age, not skill level, is the determining factor. It is an age when you are doing age grouping. Okay, so if you are on teams and you are doing age grouping, they're looking at the entire team being of the same age and skill level. Okay, so it'll be the age and the same skill level to ensure that there is not injury and safe participation. So you'll see that when we do teams, you'll see that the age group 15 and under will be playing other age groups of 15 and under. Okay. If one of them does happen to have a very high skill level, they might be playing the people in the next age group up. Okay. So so skill level and age are both determining factors. I know it's really hard to explain, and I imagine maybe there would be a Lunch and Learn coming up about it as we get into it. So there is conversation going on here about age grouping, and we're going to, actually, they're going to ask you to reach out to your field director or your regional sport director, and then we'll work with you through them to see what we can do to ensure that your age grouping is appropriate and to help you out with that. So you are going to be asked to go through your regional sport directors, and then they will contact the competition department if they need help in assisting you with your age grouping.
Jen, I have a question about bocce doubles.
Yes.
Are they going to enforce age grouping there?
They're considering that an individual sport.
Okay.
They haven't really mentioned it, but it is considered an individual sport, just like swimming relays and athletic relays. So they would like you to do your best in the age grouping there also, and ability levels. You want to make sure that everyone on that team is successful and able to participate.
Right, because a lot of the unified is like a parent and a child.
Yes. And, with that one, we're going to have to speak, I'll go back to the competition team and say, are you classifying bocce doubles? Yeah, because bowling and bocce all are more family oriented in the doubles competition. So we'll check that out for you.
Hello, Jen.
Yes.
I know you're actively involved with unified participation.
Yes.
I wonder your opinion of a traditional team playing community teams, so that there's a relative equal skill level, and if there isn't an equal skill level, it's modified to the point where lower skilled athletes are welcome to participate. The reason I ask this is that in Allegheny County, I think we've been very successful in, particularly in softball. We have a team that has actually established itself to the point where we have community groups such as police departments, fire departments, local schools. They'll actually come out and participate. And I've always thought of that as a modified form of unified sports for Special Olympics. I'd like your opinion.
Are you keeping the athletes on one team and then the other group on another?
For the most part, we have, but from time to time, we'll mix them up, particularly if the visiting team doesn't have enough athletes. We actually have some athletes that request, can I play for the fire department, or can I play for the, for the other team? And it's worked out very well. I mean, from my perspective, it's been very successful, but I appreciate any feedback from you in terms of your knowledge of other situations that might apply this approach.
Okay, so if you are playing with athletes on one team and non-athletes on another team, it's not considered unified, it's recreational. But if you would train and participate with the partners and the athletes together, and then both of the teams were athletes and partners combined, that's when it would be considered unified. And if you're not doing this as a competition, but like a scrimmage, and just make sure that everybody who is participating is at an appropriate level to participate. Okay. Please make sure your skills athletes would not be on the team playing against a a full team of police officers or firefighters. Or
Well, that's the interesting element because we do indeed have an extremely wide skill level. We have some athletes that can barely swing the bat, but they still participate, and it's amazing to see how functional it works. It's particularly when you get the cooperation of the visiting group. They're well aware that they're dealing with Special Olympics. Sometimes they modify their skill level, but I'm proud to say that we have some athletes that make it a very competitive game. And our very highly skilled athletes are very open-minded about letting the lesser skilled athletes participate. We might, for example, have our pitcher move in a little bit, or have the competitive team move in a little bit closer so that when they pitch to the individual, it's offering a better opportunity for success.
that would be more on the player development level. So where the partners are working to help increase the skills of the athletes, but it would not be considered competitive.
Right.
It would not be considered competitive. It's more of a player development. And,
Right.
and it's okay for practices to bring, I mean, I'm sure everybody loves when the partners come in and they're playing with the team or they're playing against the team. You need to just remember the number one thing is safety. Okay?
Right.
So just make sure it is safe.
To your knowledge, how extensive is this applied throughout Special Olympics Pennsylvania?
How extensive?
Right.
I think that there are many teams who will scrimmage a high school basketball team or scrimmage a high school softball team. I think there's a lot that will try to get some scrimmages in, or they're going to scrimmage another Special Olympics team, whether they're a higher level or a lower level. So I think it's done a lot. I would have to say it is done a lot because it does help build the skills of the athletes. But again, it's all player development.
Right. So from your perspective, you would encourage it. You wouldn't discourage it as an optional vehicle of participation.
For training purposes, for something like softball, I wouldn't discourage it. I think it can be a fun day for both, but if you're going for competitive, it would not fall on the competitive lines for unified sports.
Well, we're not talking about medals or, anything of that level. That would be something completely different. But I'm just curious as to how much this approach is applied throughout the state.
I believe that there are a lot of teams. Is there anyone on today who does competition with a team who is outside of Special Olympics that wants to pop in and say yes? Or throw it into the chat box?
Hi, Jen. I don't mind speaking up. The Northeast region, we are starting softball this year. And since softball was not a sport in this area in the past, we are starting it as, recreationally, but it is fully unified with a local college, Marywood University, where half of the players on each team are Marywood students and the other half are Special Olympic athletes. And they will all be training together for a minimum of 6 weeks, but our goal is 8 weeks prior to the game.
Excellent. Now, depending on your players' ages, that could end up as a competitive team because you are doing the 50-50 where you have the athletes and the partners working together on a team and training together. But if it's a one-day thing, and it's a one-day thing, considering it a training, it can be considered a training. It just, you need to always keep in mind the safety of all those that you are putting on the field.
Mhm.
Yep, but no, that's great. It's a great way to start a unified team by bringing in a
For
couple of
reference,
very
for reference, our ages, for the most part, 18 to 22. However, there are a couple of athletes in their upper 20s.
and they're playing, so your 18 and 22-year-olds are just playing up that one. Let me go back and put the age group up real quick, just so you can take a look at them one more time. Okay, so it's 16 to 21 and then 22 and over. So if you are looking at some 18 through 22 in the college students, and then your players are all in the 22 range, that team would be considered, I would tell you, probably legal, because you're at the higher end and you're just bumping up the players one age group.
Yeah, we have like maybe 2 or 3 individuals who are between 18 and 21, and the rest would be the 22 to 29-ish.
Yep, so you'd be a 22 and over age group because it's the oldest age of the player on the competition date. Okay, but make sure you keep, when you're putting your teams together for the safety of the athletes, please remember these age groups. And remember, you might have to recruit, you might be able to have a second training site. Or if you have another county close by that's not too far away for athletes to travel, you might be able to combine. Okay. And if you're having trouble working on it, please contact your regional sport director. They'll chat with you, and then they'll bring anything back to the competition department to talk about. I will follow up with you all on the information, because people are asking about golf level 2 with their age groups, and athletics, aquatic relays. We'll just double check those little odd sports, because I think that when they're looking at the team age grouping, they're looking more at our competitive teams: softball, soccer, floor hockey, volleyball, flag football. Okay, I think I'm missing something in there, but they're looking at those teams more. And individual sports, the age grouping, we've already been doing this, so this shouldn't be that different for you starting in the fall. Okay. All right. So now we're going to go back. So now I'm hoping that you go back. Your season's getting ready to start. You're getting ready and you're planning. You're going to make sure that you have a safe environment, and that you are making sure that every athlete is being able to compete to the best of their ability in a safe environment. And remember, winning second. Okay. Any other questions before we close out for today? All right. So I want to see a lot of success. I want to see tons of success. And when I'm at an event, if I'm not seeing a success for the, if I'm not seeing success for, this is awful, Jen, meaningful participation, I'll let you know. Okay. So I thank you all for attending. Like I said, in the next day or two, I'll have all your names in the database updated for your continuing ed. I hope you found this information important. Look for our next on Lunch and Learn is going to be April, and it just might be on age grouping. Or age grouping might be included again to make sure that we're all on the same page and ready for this fall. But take a look at your teams, take a look at your individuals, and make sure they're successful. They're counting on you. Okay. Thanks, everyone, and have a great day.
Thank you, Jen.
Thank you, Jennifer. Great update.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
I'll
you,
see you
Jen.
tonight.